Also, in Deutsch ist es sehr wichtig, die langsamen Wörter zu lernen. Zum Beispiel.
As we head back into the school season, many of us, at least in the US, will have to fulfill our 2 years of foreign language. However, to many of us, learning languages is hard and at times might even seem pointless. It isn't. But not only is learning another language a key to a bigger part of the world, it's even good for your own mind. And besides, can it really be that hard?
Zum Beispiel, Rindfleisch in Beziehungs- oder Verhaltensaufgaben im Übertragungsgesetz war ein Wort von einem anderen Gesetz in der Bundesrepublik.
Okay, well, I never said it was completely easy.
Why do we learn languages that aren't our own? Travel, making friends in a local community, acting pretentious whenever the name of something foreign is brought up?
A little bow wow, and then we can call an Uber.
Well, perhaps. Those are all valid reasons, I think. But regardless, a lot of people just don't seem to be able to learn another language. But why? Now, in this video, I'll be talking more to my Anglosphere audience, as most of you in continental Europe probably don't need to be told how to learn a second language, let alone why. A likely reason for this is because of how much more linguistically diverse Europe is than North America or Australia, where you can pretty much get away with just English. So for someone from those countries, it might not seem as if there's much of a reason to go through the effort of learning another language, and indeed with more and more people in more and more places learning English anyway, it might even be harder as opportunities to learn other languages shrink. But that doesn't mean English speakers should just give up and wait for everyone else to learn English. Mom, in case you're watching, first off, that's kind of rude. Second, there are about 1.5 billion English speakers out there, just 360 million of which are native speakers, which sounds, and indeed is, quite impressive. But you remember how the world population is kind of bigger than that? It turns out the world population is more like 7.5 billion, about equivalent to every country in the world put together. So that's around 6 billion people who still don't speak English, and though there are 3,000 to 7,000 other languages that people speak, which sounds daunting, it's not like you'll have to learn thousands of languages and dialects just to talk to the majority of the world's population. More like 10 or 20, but still. Also, there are still more than plenty of pockets around the world where you can't really rely on your English that well, like here in Berlin, where the S and U-Bahn announcements rarely have English translations. So if you're in Berlin Hauptbahnhof and you don't speak any German at all, good luck in this situation.
Eingefahrener Zug auf Gleis 15, S3 nach Erkner, über Friedrichstraße, Ostkreuz.
Okay, by the way, if you want to pick up on some quick German right now, the announcer said that the arriving train on platform 15 was the S3 heading to Erkner via Friedrichstraße and Ostkreuz. You're welcome, now back to the video. Languages are an incredibly useful tool for cross-cultural communication, but they're also a great way to think in a way that you normally wouldn't. As a somewhat random example, in languages like English and German, we have the directional words left and right, but we also have the accuracy measuring words wrong and right. So if you're right-handed or your country drives on the right side of the road, is it the right side or the right side? Okay, sure, they're not always good thoughts, but that was just an example, since plenty of other languages around the world wouldn't draw such a comparison to these words in this way. In fact, speaking multiple languages can help with pathfinding, problem solving, and task switching, which, if you have to switch between multiple languages on a regular basis, probably isn't too surprising. In fact, before the 60s, it was thought that bilingualism was more of a handicap for kids who had to speak more than one language, as they would have to remember more words for the same things. Don't worry though, those studies turned out completely wrong. Learning another language can even delay the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia, but I would definitely recommend this video from Jonah Hausman for more info on that. Actually, I linked a bunch of good videos for you to watch in the description below. There was another thing I think was important to talk about here. Machine translations, specifically what CGB Great said in his first Q&A back when he only had 500,000 subscribers. God, they grew up so fast. Specifically where he said he would trade out the foreign language classes for computer programming, slightly sarcastically justifying it with how good computers will get us a decent universal translator anyway. Though I agree that computer programming should definitely be taught in schools these days, at best I'm skeptical about this notion. There's a reason why Google Translate doesn't always work out so well, despite being one of the best in the world, mainly things like cultural things, and sentences that strongly rely on context, which the user rarely gives, let's be honest. Human language, perhaps unsurprisingly, is a very, well, human thing. And every language, at least every naturally formed language, has minor inflections, exceptions, and taboos that speakers just kind of have to know about, and can vary depending on context. Will the computers outpace us someday and actually create a perfectly accurate universal translator? I really shouldn't say no to that. AI is getting better and faster day by day, and they are all definitely destined to do better at tasks that we can ever do, but I wouldn't give up language courses to wait for that day to happen anytime soon. Now, I realize that there are probably a lot more of you interested in how you can learn another language rather than why you should, which is definitely a good question. Okay, let's have a bit of real talk here. Now, I really don't want to turn this video into some kind of advice video like 7 amazing tips to learning languages that you won't believe, or something else like that. However, any tips for learning a new language, whether they be to practice often or spend a year abroad speaking the language, they all revolve around one central component. Really, it's the same word of advice I'd give to anyone wanting to start a YouTube channel. One word. Persistence. I mean, let's say you want to learn Turkish. Just ask yourself, why? And then ask yourself neden, because that's good practice, but is it because it sounds kind of cool? Well, it does, and maybe that might motivate you to learn through all the grammar, but learning a language takes time. At best, total fluency takes years. I can speak Spanish and German, not fluently I will admit, but enough to sustain a good conversation. But why did I learn those languages? Well, my dream is to study here in Berlin, and back in Portland, Spanish is actually a really useful language to learn. What I'm saying is, it's not always opportunities to learn languages that will help, but interest and a good enough reason to motivate you to endure all those years of learning. However, that being said, what they say about total immersion is absolutely true. Now, if all this doesn't sway you and you for whatever reason just don't want to or can't learn another language, that's fine. Seriously, I'm not here to shame you or anything for being monolingual. I also think you probably just haven't been trying hard enough, but that doesn't make you a bad person or anything. What I'm really saying is that learning another language is always worth a shot, and if you still, for the life of you, just don't want to, that's still fine. Unless it's because of racism, but that's seriously a whole other problem. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it and/or, preferably found it informative, please be sure to give it a like, share it with anyone you know who's interested or disinterested in learning another language, which I guess means everyone, and subscribe to learn something new every Sunday.